In today's video, we are going to create this animation.
Are you stuck in a cycle? The key to unlocking your potential lies in the company you keep. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and elevate you. Remember, not everyone will walk this journey with you, but you're not alone.
As you might already know, I have been on and off these animation projects because I started this as a side project. However, I did not know you guys loved this animation so much. And what's up boys, Kaimanta Pichambe? Anyway, I have been asked a lot about what should be the pricing for these animations. And I'd say $10 to $50 would be a great starting point for anyone interested. And like any service-based offer, the more experience you gain making these animations, the more you will be paid. Now that we have got that out of the way, we'll be looking at how we created this animation. Firstly, huge shout out to Bronson. He's an amazing creator with great ideas and I appreciate the opportunity that we got to work together. Also, he literally made my life a whole lot easier when he sent me his ideas in a presentation showing what he thinks about the animation should look like. I shed a tear and thank the gods for such an amazing human. We'll be only focusing upon the third animation for today because that's the one where I tried something completely new. Alright. Purpose of the animation: to convey to the audience that you need a team around you and you cannot do it alone. Now purpose here means the overall idea or the theme that we will be carrying throughout the animation. Remember this as you go on to create the animation because even if you create the most brain-shattering animations, if that does not link back to your main idea of the script or the audio, you have to do it all again, which is... Moving on, we have the actual script of the animation and the link to download the audio file, and then the creative direction, which is what I call the storyboard of the animation. As you can see, Bronson has sketched out a few ideas for the script that we looked at earlier. Quick tip for you guys: whenever I refer to the storyboard, I am referring to all the sketches of the animation. And when I say scene, we are looking at individual sketches to narrow down if that makes sense to you guys. So, storyboard, scene. First, we'll be looking at the big picture, meaning the storyboard. Bronson's idea was to show a ball inside a circle who after multiple attempts is not able to escape on his own, which somehow transitions into multiple balls to break free to transition into a 5-ball sequence to showcase surrounding yourself with the right people. Which makes sense, no doubt. The main ball is left alone in the scene and finally the ball breaks into 2 to show that you are not alone. Great. Bronson's idea was great with the storyboarding. However, I felt like something was missing in the storyboard. Can you guys guess what was missing? Let me know in the comments down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Did you write your answer? The answer is storytelling. As you can see, all of these scenes are great in and in of itself to explain the script. However, if we were to bring it all together, we would have 2 different things going on at the same time. For example, what would you feel like if you had Babu Bhaiya's audio playing at endgame?
ये बाबूराव का स्टाइल है.
That made sense, no doubt. However, it made sense in all the wrong ways, right? We opened up After Effects and I started to fiddle around with Bronson's original idea because I always try to ingrain all of my clients' personality or branding into the animation to make this unique just for him or his brand. And since we have got the storyboard, I'll try to sort of integrate his ideas while adding storytelling with my ideas as well. Focusing upon the first scene, we have got the big circle and the ball in the center. So I created the composition and using the ellipse tool, I started to create the big circle and the ball. At first, I wanted to animate the ball bouncing inside the circle to explode into multiple circles and see what that looked like before moving on to scene 2. So I tried Newton 3. A physics-based software to emulate the bouncing ball animation. But I did not know that objects cannot be animated within objects. I dropped the idea to animate in Newton and started thinking of doing this manually. If anyone knows the fix to my problems, let me know in the comments down below because I have never faced this before while animating. Anyway, I separated the position properties into X and Y axis to gain control over each of them. Hit the stopwatch button and began plotting keyframes as I moved the ball in different locations. Around the frame of the outer circle, of course. Once the basic positioning was done with the ball, we wanted to add squash and stretch principle into it. If you have no idea what I'm talking about here, I would definitely suggest you to watch the fundamentals of animation video where I explain the 12 principles of animation. Moving on, I unlink the scale properties and hit the stopwatch button along with the stopwatch button on the rotation property of the ball layer. Why did I do this? So that I can rotate the ball around as I squash the ball as it moves into different locations keyframed earlier. Make sense? After a whole lot of rotating and scaling, we arrive at this animation. I apply the effect echo to the ball layer, which adds sort of a ghost of the ball who follows the ball around everywhere with a slight delay. I mentioned earlier that we'll be using the principles of squash and stretch. However, I only use squash while animating the ball. The stretch will be accomplished by the echo effect because we get a ghost which amplifies the animation we did on the ball layer. Makes sense now, right? I changed the time from -0.33 to -0.005. Number of echoes to be 3 and the echo operator to be blend because we wanted the ghost to blend in with our main ball. Playing the animation back, we get this. I know it does not look much, however it adds to the animation the same way we use the graph editor to enhance our animation speed. Speaking of the graph editor, this is before I touch the graph editor and this is after I touch the graph editor. And this is what both of them look like side by side. What we are basically doing here is, this whip constitute the amount of time spent by the layer at specific positions, which we can look at using the green line, which indicates the y-axis of the layer, and red for the x-axis of the layer. A sharp peak indicates a bounce off of the axis we have keyframed, and the U-shaped line indicates that the ball will slowly and smoothly move from the first keyframe towards the second keyframe on either axis. Comprende? Well done. We are now through the first scene of the animation. Before we get into the next scene, this is where we start implementing storytelling into our animation. What Bronson suggested was the ball to divide into multiple smaller balls, right? Who escape the outer circle together. Instead, I thought outside the circle. Get it? No? Never mind. Referring back to the main idea, we wanted to showcase teamwork as the main theme of the animation. And I thought, why not show some smaller circles come into the scene to sort of save the ball from the outer circle, if that makes sense. I don't know who exactly the ball characterized at the moment. However, since there were multiple smaller circles coming in to save the ball, he might be coined as the CEO of the company. And the smaller balls could represent the team members that we work with every day. And it just made sense to me. With the script and the idea that Bronson shared with me, I started to work on how the animation would transition into the storyboard. Back to After Effects and we'll be working with scene 2 and 3 of the storyboard. Initially I started with a small circle moving into the scene and added a small movement before making his way over to look at the big circle to add the expression of shock, if that makes sense, to make the animation feel real. I experimented around with some punctuation marks and settled onto one. Then I keyframed the ball layer to a few pixels to the right before moving the ball entirely out of the screen and added a question mark. What I was trying to do here is show that the small ball is confused before he leaves the screen. I brought the small ball in and duplicated the question mark to create an arrow indicating the trapped ball. This will all make sense in a bit. Stick with me. I extended the question mark layer to be on the screen for a few more seconds, and using the squiggly looking thing, I parented the question mark to follow our small circle. I did the same with the arrow layer, linking it to the small circle as it entered into the scene. My idea here was to show the small circle noticing something odd happening to the ball inside the circle, and he leaves the screen to bring in more of his friends to look at what was happening here. To create friends of the small circle, we are going to reverse engineer this to make our lives simpler. What I do here is duplicate the small circle layer so that I get exact copy. Cut the layer into two and delete the first half. I hit U on my keyboard to bring up all the keyframes that we have placed on the layer and delete all of them except the one our timeline marker is upon. When that is done, I move the circle to a new position and move the position keyframes down in time. Since we do not have a starting position at this moment, we'll just move the circle out of the frame to get ourselves some new keyframes. I duplicated the layer we created and we have our third circle, representing the main purpose of the story, team. I moved the third circle above the first circle and placed him way too close to the bigger circle to show that he might be curious to know what's up. Playing it all back, we have reached here. Moving on, we'll be focusing on how we can get the ball out of the bigger circle. And to do that, we'll be breaking into the bigger circle with our team. The story is all coming together, isn't it? We'll all be focusing and widening our attention on scenes 2, 3 and 4. What I'm thinking here is to bring the bottom small circle to start breaking into the bigger circle. But since we want the idea of the team to be highlighted, we'll show him to feel and bounce back, while another one of his team member tries and succeeds. We'll be moving towards this idea and sticking to the scenes 2, 3 and 4. To start this off, we animate the third ball to move away from the outer circle as our first keyframe, and the contact point with the bigger circle to be our second keyframe. While I was at it, I wanted to show the members to notice what the circle was doing. So I moved the second circle out of the way and brought in the third circle closer to make it look like they were noticing what the bottom circle was doing. Out of curiosity, another idea popped into my head. As the circle, making an attempt to break in, made contact with the bigger circle, I could show a dent. And while the circle was bouncing off of the big circle, one of the two smaller circles could bang into each other while the third circle could break in. Pretty confusing, right? I agree. I keyframed the position of the second circle to the position where the two circles connect and moved them away from each other, resulting into this. When that was done, I moved on to create a dent in the bigger circle caused by the smaller circles outside. And to do this, I opened up Contents, Ellipse 1 and Path. I keyframed the path and added a couple of points on the shape to create the dent. I moved ahead in time and added in the dent, which plotted another keyframe on our timeline. When we play this back, we can see the dent as the ball hits the outer circle. On to animating the third circle. I first moved the third circle closer to the point of contact to show that he noticed the dent in the bigger circle. But nobody was there to listen because they got slammed into each other at 1,000 miles an hour. No worries. Finally, adding an exclamation mark. Now since the other two small circles were out of the way, we can start to animate the third ball to break into the bigger circle. But before we get into that, we should emulate some emotion into the ball inside the bigger circle as well. You see, if you were clueless about where you were, but know that you are trapped inside a room, you will be scared shitless if someone knocked on the door. Makes sense, right? This is what I was trying to do with the ball inside the bigger circle. I first keyframed the ball to where it was when the first circle was about to slam into the bigger circle and changed its position away from the dent to show that it was scared of what was happening, and later brought it closer to the dent to show that it was about to inspect what was up. I then animated the third circle to move away from the bigger circle and to break into it. And don't worry about the dent, we'll get rid of it soon. We'll be focusing on animating the circle for the moment and come back to fixing the dent. What I was thinking here was to make the ball breaking into the big circle to collide with the white ball. So I animated them both to collide and then move away from each other. And the benefit of doing this is we get space for the other circles to move in, of course. Then I animated the remaining circles to move inside the bigger circles. And voila! This is what we animated up until this point. Moving on, I added keyframes to make the white ball move towards the smaller circles. The idea here is referring back to scene 4, where the white ball splits into many, and to achieve this we are going to animate each of the smaller circles to move away from the white ball. We'll come back to that in a bit, but for now let's focus upon the hole in our outer circle. To fix this, I created a shape with roughly the size of the opening and I animated it to blast away as the first ball was about to enter. Likewise, coming back to the white ball, I added some keyframes on its scale property to go from big white ball to a small white ball, which also matches the size of the smaller circles we animated earlier. When that was done, I animated the smaller circles by moving them out of the bigger circle. And to justify that not everybody will walk this journey with you, somebody had to go. I decided that the last circle exiting would be the one to walk straight out of the screen, and that is what we did. Then we moved the white ball away from the path of the ball exiting and made him travel to the top of the screen to finally loop and complete the animation. Finally, I animated the white ball to drop down into the bigger circle and cut the smaller circle layers the moment it made contact with them. And that's it. We are done. Let me know in the comments down below if you want me to make more of these animations. And on a serious note, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for all the support towards the channel. And with that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Adios.